I guess my earliest memory is of competition is the World Junior Championships, and they had local, they had regional, and then they had World Championship that was in SeaWorld. 1983, started competing in the Wheaties World Frisbee Championships, and I knew that there was only 3 divisions back there. Then there was only open, women, and junior division. There was no age protected. Age protected divisions weren't invented yet. So this was the division I was playing in, and it was cool, but I was looking for more competition. And at La Mirada in the early 80s, we had weeklies and we had monthlies run by Orbiter's Odyssey, Dan Mangoni. And he kind of infused that continued desire to compete at a higher level. So I knew I wanted to play in events. The biggies back then was the Mazda U.S. Open Frisbee Championships, and that was like the Olympics of the disc sports. Back then, they had 7 different disciplines, disc golf being the main one, distance, accuracy, TRC, which was MTA and TRC combined, discathon, and freestyle. So I, excelled in the power events, distance and disc golf, and even MTA. World Junior Frisbee Championships, ended up qualifying to go to the World Championships, and that was in 1983. It was a great event. Dan Mangoni was my chaperone. He went with me. He was my coach back then. I lost that event by 0.4 of a point. 0.4 of a point to Jean-Luc Foray from Canada. And he was embarrassed. And I'm like, can't they just round down? They didn't round down. I lost by 0.4 of a point. So that was kind of my first real, painful defeat. And I hated that feeling. And I knew I wanted to get into, more of a competitive arena. And so I started playing in the open division. And there was only juniors. There was only open and women's division. I think at the beginning of 1984, Dan had said that they have a world championship. It's coming up in July. It's going to be in Rochester, New York. We got a lot of good guys there. Royce Rosanowski was sort of the guy back then. And you should start practicing for that. And then you have your U.S. Open that's coming up. U.S. Open was a month before the World Championships at La Mirada. And U.S. Open had 7 different structured events. People would come from all over the world to compete in distance, disc golf, accuracy, TRC, discathon, and freestyle. And I had excelled in the power events, mainly disc golf and distance. Hole 18, coming down to it, tied with Steve Bentley for the win, and I end up missing. What I remember, it was a very short putt. I'm 15 feet maybe. And the feeling was so terrible. I never wanted that to happen again. So after that, I had already, a month before, signed up for the PDGA. And back then you didn't have internet, so you had to send it in snail mail. And so my PDGA membership was submitted probably a month before the event. And I got my number, 2872. I knew that I was going to compete in the World Championships. So shortly after that devastating defeat to Steve Bentley, the U.S. Open, by 1 stroke, I practiced every day. It was summertime, so I didn't have to, deal with La Mirada High School. La Mirada High School, incidentally, was right across the street, so from La Mirada Park. So I had practiced every single day from the morning, early morning, till the street lights came on, until my mother picked me up, or my father. About 2 weeks before the event, I came down with walking pneumonia and had to go. It hit me hard. I was down for the count. And so I went to the doctor. He was a pediatrician. I still remember him, Dr. Leibowitz, and he saw my brother and I since we were kids, and said, there's no way you're going to make the trip. Now he took an x-ray. You see your lungs are all filled up with infection. He gave me the antibiotics. You're taking them. Our friend from Mexico City that lived across the street says, that's not going to work in time. You need to try some of this stuff. It was like a eucalyptus concoction that I would breathe in 3 times a day and then hacking up all of the infection to clear it out. And Dr. Leibowitz had made it clear to my mother that if she sent me to this tournament, this Frisbee tournament, that he wouldn't see me nor my brother ever again. He made it very clear that that was irresponsible. I came in like a week before I was supposed to leave, and he took the x-ray, and he's like, I can't believe it. Your lungs are cleared up. I don't know what you did, but you got my blessing to go. So I still had medication, and I got on the plane by myself, and I was a minor. I was 16, and I think I had to have some sort of permission from my parents to the airline and the stewardess to go, like a little note. I'm 16. Royce Rosanowski, Alan Risley was there as well. Royce put me up, him and his lovely wife Mary, and took care of me throughout the week. First time I played a real disc golf event other than Arizona and other than the World Frisbee Championships in Florida, outside of my confines of my home in La Mirada. And it's way up there in New York. It's like go a little bit further north here in Canada. But it was a wonderful, wonderful place. I remember the humidity. I remember that it just smelled green. There was beautiful Ellison Park. Disc golf was one of the early disc golf courses in New York. 2 18-hole courses. We played 4 rounds. And one was more technical down in the woods. You know, my accuracy was okay back then, but my distance is what really put me ahead. So I was lucky that the first course, the permanent course, was geared towards distance and power, and just trying to, feel comfortable out there. It was new surrounding. It was a little humid. I wasn't used to that. Discs were getting sticky. I had 4 discs with me. Actually, I still have one. I still have the Aero. This was a patent pending Aero that I had with me. It was one of the 4 discs. I had an XD. I had an Aviar, and then I had another backup Aviar and a towel. And didn't carry a bag. I don't believe I had a bag back then, but it took me a while to get used to it. I shot a 5 under. Joe Thacker shot an unbelievable 41. So, yeah, he was like 8 strokes ahead of me going into round 2. And Johnny Saez was right behind Thacker and the late Tom Monroe. So, and then we had David Greenwell, Michael Sullivan breathing, down everybody's neck. Very fierce competitors. Very fierce competitors, and just looking at me like they wanted to kill me, And it was good. It was good competition. Like Michael Sullivan was probably the closest to me in age. I think he's probably 4 to 5 years older, sort of like Harold Duvall, same thing. They were always like bigger brother, type, and sometimes they weren't nice. Harold was nice. It was all friendly camaraderie and competition. They've been out to the U.S. Open. I met Dave Greenwell. Never met Johnny Saez. Never met Michael Sullivan until that tournament. So I knew all the guys, and they were genuinely gracious or happy to see me out there. They called me the California Kid. I was very competitive, and I remembered the loss by 1 stroke a month before, and I remembered the 0.4 of a point the year before, and just said, this is not going to happen again. And in round 2, I was on the longer course. 7 under was the record. I shot an 8 under. I believe that may have been the course record. Went on to, and then that evened the scores a bit. Went on into round 3 to shoot another 8 under. I had a 6-stroke lead, a 6-stroke cushion going into the last 18 holes. Johnny Saez was in the group. I believe Dave Greenwell and Michael Sullivan were all right there as well. And it was getting heated. And I remember we were playing, fortunately enough, the longer course. And I remember the first 3 holes I was nervous, and I believe I may have thrown either OB or the other guys advanced on me, I lost like 3 strokes in the first 3 holes. I'm like going, this is not going to happen, you know? And I just remember just getting extremely focused and remembering all the practice sessions at La Mirada and trying to relax. I got to hole 6. They called that the top of the world back then. It was 630 plus feet downhill. Slight crosswind, left to right, and I broke out my Aero, my trusty Aero, and I think I was last on the tee. All the guys had thrown down there to where they had, maybe the closest guy was 50 feet to maybe get a birdie, but I threw the Aero off the hill, slight hyzer, and it lifted up, and when I saw it, I knew it was just going to go straight because it just had a beeline straight for the target, and I could hear the crowd in the back, start to rumble a bit because they saw what was happening, and the disc landed and tapped the pole right underneath, and everybody erupted. At that point, I calmed down. I felt better, more confident about it, and I went on to birdie a number of holes after that, and I was 5 strokes up at the end of the event. It was an unbelievable feeling of relief. I was happy it was over, but at the same time, I wanted to play more. And I think that's how I was back then. You never take your talents, your abilities for granted. Remember what your goals are, and you always need to practice towards those goals and never give up. And I just remember wanting to go out and play more after that. And I see a lot of that in the young players now, the young athletes. It's the same thing. They'll play, they'll either win or they'll come up short, but they're out there playing an evening round again, and that's exciting. That's the magic. Timely win. Innova had just incorporated. They just became a company a year before. I knew the guys. I developed a relationship with Dave Dunapace and Tim Zielinski and Harold Duvall by that time. So to me, I was still a kid. I had a paper route, but I was proud. That was one of the other feelings I had because I was getting on the plane and there's no internet, right? People got to get on the payphone and say, yep, I won. I won the World Championship title, which was priceless. And I think I won $1,000. But part of the deal was that I also won Jim Palmieri's coveted disc collection. It had pie tins and Pluto platters in there. But my deal was, since Dan Mangoni sponsored me, I was sponsored by Orbiter's Odyssey, which was Dan's business before discovering the world. Part of the deal with Dan was if I happened to win, he would get the Jim Palmieri collection. And how wise of him, of course. I'm sure he still has the stuff and he probably keeps it in a, airtight museum. I probably wouldn't have done that. So it was a great ending to a story. And as far as Innova is concerned, I was super proud to go back and tell the guys, hey, got one for California. And they were all so proud as well, and I think that's when Dave took me under his wing and started, training me, giving me pointers, and then, the distance thing happened. There was sort of a team, I guess you could call it a team. It wasn't official. There was Harold Duvall, there was Dave, there was Frank Aguilera, who was the distance record holder of 1984 or 1985, 545 feet with Aero. What he was throwing back then. Might have been 84 when he did that. But so it was sort of us 4, 5 on the team. We would go to the factory, pick the discs up, throw the discs out into the practice field. We'd have our jersey, our champion star jerseys, and our hats, and that was I guess that was Innova's first real disc golf team. Winning when I was 16 back in 1984, I came back to our small disc golf community as a hero, They were super proud. And I went on to play at high levels after that, all the way up until I went to university and then went on to Japan and other things. But yeah, I guess that's what gave me the extra confidence to continue to try to do things at a high level. And that disc golf community was key. Can a 16-year-old win the world championship these days? That's definitely a tough challenge. The one thing that this generation has going for them is that there's money in the sport. So we're attracting seasoned, true athletes. Before, back in the day, we played because we loved the flight of the disc. These guys are coming in because they won $1 million contracts, and I don't blame them. So we're attracting, professional athletes. So even though there's a very small window, there may be a kid that comes in and does it. I'm rooting for you.